Who were you before you lost your wild self?
That's what we're helping you explore on the Tend Her Wild podcast.
Through questions and tools around how best to listen to your inner voice,
rewild ourselves, and live the most authentic life where we thrive instead of survive.
I'm Betsy.
And I'm Kate.
And we're so glad you've joined us for this episode.
Hello, Tend Her Wild podcast listeners. On today's episode, we have our first Reverend Sarah Goettsch. Sarah is an ordained Lutheran pastor in the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America since 2001. She served 2 rural congregations in Calamus, Iowa for almost 14 years before moving to North Liberty in 2014 with her husband, Doug, and 3 sons who are in their late teens, early 20s. Yes. Shout out to Christian, Jacob, and Philip. Sarah worked as a campus pastor for Lutheran campus ministry at the University of Iowa for 10 years, while also serving Gloria Dei Lutheran Church as pastor from 2014 to 2024. She loves preaching and social justice work and is a passionate ally and advocate for the LGBTQIA community. During her time as campus pastor, she noticed a pervasive apologetic narrative among the students. Female students apologized for taking up space, speaking, not speaking, disagreeing, etc. This inspired her to research patterns within the church that encouraged this apologetic mindset among women. So at events and in life, you will hear Sarah preach, Sorry, Not Sorry, a rejection of female apologetics. And we are not sorry you're here.
Thank you for having me. So good.
So good. Welcome.
Thanks.
Yeah, this is going to be such a fun conversation. And if you're watching online, you can see her in her beautiful collar. But if you're listening, she represents today in her pastoral collar.
Did you ask her to wear that today?
I asked her if I should.
Beautiful.
She threw it back to me.
She's like, yes.
I left it up to her, but I said, we have never had anyone show up in that.
I think it's important.
Yeah.
To rebrand.
She's in the rebranding mode.
Which is what we're excited to talk about.
Yes. Rebranding some of these things that we've grown up believing and the truths that are not truths.
Yeah.
But we always like to start, Sarah, at the very beginning. Because how you got to where you are and what the gifts you're sharing in the world, we would love to know about little Sarah and those first 10 years. What were some of the big experiences or moments or things that really shaped you during those first 10 years?
I saw that in your email, and I think that's a really important question to ask anyone, actually, when you get to know them. I grew up in Marshalltown, Iowa, so central Iowa. The second of 4 children. I have 3 brothers and a mom and dad. They both live in Marshalltown still. They're divorced, but they still live there, as does my youngest brother. We grew up right when the Missouri Synod Lutheran Church was splitting. That might not mean a lot to some people. To others, that's maybe triggering or means a lot. That's a denomination of the Lutheran Church that does not allow female ordination. And it split in 1974. I was 2 years old. So I grew up in a church that was kind of reassembling itself and became a predecessor church body to the ELCA. These were church bodies that wanted women to be pastors, that wanted to be more inclusive, and eventually found themselves in 1988. The ELCA was born. But nonetheless, my church background, my family background was Missouri Synod. For centuries in my family, there have been female or male pastors, only male pastors, like since the 1700s, like way back, until I rolled along. And so, yeah, we grew up in Marshalltown, and it's significant to know that my mom left our family when I was 10. And that was very informative in terms of how then my childhood was recast, which was less a childhood and more thrust into like kind of young motherhood in terms of raising brothers and taking care of house and family and stuff like that.
Did you have all brothers?
All brothers.
And you ended up living with your dad.
Yeah.
So he had full custody of you.
Yes.
And so you were the only female in the home.
And God has a very dark sense of humor.
Yes, I understand that.
Because now I have three sons.
Boys.
Like, are there women in the world? And the fact that I'm in this room with three women is like more female companionship that I get like in a week.
Yeah.
And so
talking about the wild woman archetype
is amazing to me. Yeah. So yes, it was very much male dominated, not only in my immediate family, but also in my ancestral family and how that kind of rolled over the years.
Yeah.
So.
Did you know in those first 10 years or shortly after that you wanted to be a pastor? Like, how did church factor into those early years for you?
Church was a very important role or factor in my life. So even as a young kid, I was that young kid in church that was like dragged up in front of the congregation and like stood on a stool to read the readings for the day, and was in like Sunday school and confirmation and had led a very vibrant like youth group. Those were kind of the golden years of the congregation. They still refer to it that way. I was very much encouraged by the congregation to have leadership role as a female, especially the pastor that I had growing up. He was an old white dude, but kept pushing me to go to seminary. And I'm like, back off. That's not going to happen. And he laughed.
Even as a young, like high school kid, you were being encouraged to think about going to seminary. Okay.
He saw something in you.
Yeah. And in the church, we call that an external call, like something that other people see in you. But then you also have to have an internal call, which I did, but like was tamping that down because I was raised with this narrative that like boys do that, but not girls. So yeah, his name was Alan Thorson. He was a lovely, lovely, very influential person in my young life.
When did you get the internal call?
This is hard to answer. I think early on, but in college is when I started to kind of vocalize it. But so I went to Valparaiso University in Indiana. And at that time, Valparaiso was only Missouri Synod affiliated. Today, it's affiliated with Missouri Synod and ELCA.
So it was a pretty conservative Lutheran college.
Especially then.
Okay.
Less so today.
Okay.
But so I started to kind of vocalize, this is what I want to do. And that was very strongly discouraged at that
college.
time.
So it was encouraged when you were younger by your pastor, and then you get off to college.
Stifled.
And it's more stifled. That's interesting.
Yeah. But that's when you started to tap into it.
So I did this kind of significant Jonah move, which if you know the story of Jonah, ran away from the situation. Jonah in the Old Testament ran away to Spain, which is very cool. I ran away to Hungary.
They're at least in the same continent.
Sexy, but it did the job. I was there for 2 years teaching English and German and religion to high school kids in an attempt to like dissuade myself from thinking that that's what I wanted to do with my life. And came home in 1996 and enrolled in seminary. So,
which seminary did you go to?
Wartburg Theological Seminary.
And Dubuque, Iowa.
Dubuque, Iowa.
Okay. Beautiful. So you were in your early 20s when you started seminary. When
I started seminary, I would have been like 25.
25. Okay. And then talk us through that next phase. So you get the internal call, you get external people pointing out, like, Sarah, you've got talent and inclination towards this. And then you actually start the process of it. What was that like?
Yeah. So the process is probably different now than it was then. But I can speak to what it was. And I'm sure it's just an iteration today on what it was, especially since COVID. So at that time, in order to go to seminary, you physically moved. Like you packed up and you moved to go to campus. And it is a 4-year program. Today, there's a lot of online options, which is great. But it was different then. And honestly, like shaped such an amazing community because you were all
together. Yeah.
Some had families, some were right out of college, some were like in their 60s.
Was it all women or
no, my class was half and half.
It was half and half. Okay.
Yeah.
That's still good. I mean, back then to be half and half.
Yes. Yes. And so for 4 years, you kind of marched through this academic program. You marched through kind of this discernment process with a bishop. And 1 year out of that, you take as an intern, which means you're a student pastor in a congregation. And so, I mean, it's a lot of investment. It's financial investment. It's time investment. For a lot of people, it's their family, like uprooting jobs and schools and stuff like that. So, but it's changed quite a bit. But the residential model that I had still exists, but there's just other options for people. So,
and how long was it?
4 years.
4 full years.
Mm-hmm.
And were you single the whole time?
I married my ex-husband my second year.
Okay.
And so we lived in married housing in kind of this cute little like married housing division of the seminary. Other than that, I lived in dorms.
Okay, I have to pause because you have an ex-husband, and
Drama.
we have to start there, right? I mean, because I think that's why I'm so thrilled to talk to you today. Is you are this pastor of all the pastors I know. You're like you've busted out of all kinds of boxes, and you talk about edgy things, and so me growing up, I'm going through a divorce right now, and me growing up, that was like. I mean, everything was like, you never get a divorce. Yes. You never get a divorce.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So can we start there?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Let's just jump in.
Dive in, Sarah.
In terms of like how the church views.
Yes. And how, and your own sense of, was it a struggle? Was there shame? Was there, what that felt like to you, like it was going against what the church has said I should be in a marriage for life. I took a vow in front of God.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what has gone through my head. I took a vow in front of God and 200 people.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of shame involved. There was for me, because I had parishioners and community people and other clergy tell me like, that this is a sin. I'm like, okay. Like, we all have sins, and so I guess I'll take one for the team. But I feel like when you're a woman, that's your first sin.
Pause there.
And then you can't do anything controversial on top of that. So, like we'll accept the fact that you're a female clergy, but you better toe the line.
You better be extra good. Because women, we got to be extra good in this man's world.
So
true, probably in a lot of professions.
I think you're right.
But profoundly in the clergy.
Right. And so when you decide, like, I understand that I made a vow, I understand this is not good for me or him. I'm going to break it. And did. And currently, it's funny, I graduated from high school with him and his current wife. Lovely. We all graduated together. So funny. She brings out amazing things in him that I never did. And I enjoy her so much. And we drink wine together at like our kid events and stuff like that. And I thank God. The divorce was not fun. They're never fun. Broken relationships are never anything to celebrate. But how things landed, we're so fortunate. And I get to tell the boys all the time, you have 4 adults
that love
that
you,
worship you.
Yes.
And are in your corner and will do whatever we can do to support you. So there's no war.
Yeah.
There's no conflict. Like it's all good. And and so for a while it was really atrocious. But it settles eventually. And then other people find other things to talk about, And so I don't know your situation, but like, I just kept telling myself to write it out. And pretty soon I won't be interesting to people and they'll find something else to talk about.
So you were actually in your first job or you were in a job in a church and you made this decision And so you were getting flack from people in the congregation and people talking about it.
Yeah.
And you, like you said, I wrote it out. I think you also gave an example to people of, we all sin and this isn't good for anyone. And I'm making a different choice.
Yeah. And also,
very powerful.
but also like the human propensity to judge, like when people would sit and talk to me, like, this is a sin. I mean, it was almost like, are you telling me that God thinks it's a sin, or is this your opinion?
Yeah. Is this your stuff?
Yeah. And honestly, I think most of the time it's people's own stuff where they're like, well, I've been in a terrible relationship for 40 years and I've stuck it out. Therefore,
Yes.
And that's sad to me.
Sarah, somewhere along the line, have we lost that it's between you and your God? Because I feel like that's a big shift that has happened where it's the judgment is coming from others.
Yeah.
We've no longer left room for the idea that this is everyone's relationship with God is their own.
Yeah.
It's the judgment now is we're judging all over the place.
Yeah. I think you're absolutely right. And I think that's one of my favorite things for me to say as a clergy person when people are like, well, what about these people or that people? And I'm like, that's not my work.
Yeah.
This is God's work. My job, simply put, if we were on an elevator together, is to tell you that God loves you. No matter who you are, no matter what you've done, God loves you. And how God works that out is not my business.
Right.
And
are the people doing most of the judging people not doing their own work?
Well, more than likely. Or they've been raised with a narrative that they have somehow done something that's unforgivable.
Yes.
That alienates them from God's love forever, which is false, which is the church's historical attempt to control people out of fear.
Yeah. Sarah, I have was born into a religious town and family and have a memory of being a little girl growing up with so much fear that I was going to go to hell because that's what I heard, in church, that I would be walking to school asking for forgiveness with every step, because I was afraid a car would hit me and then I wouldn't have asked for forgiveness and then I would go to hell. Right. So, that feeling of something bad is going to happen to me if I'm not fully forgiven. And so we started this conversation before we started rolling about the harm that religion has created for people, and then how that I don't know. I just want you to talk about this because I think you said people will project onto me the harm that they've had from religion, and you have some way of helping unravel that for people. Can we get into this?
I love talking to people who have been hurt by the church. I'm good at it. And I love listening to their stories. They're right 100% of the time. No matter if their tale is like a major offense or just a comment. But they're right, and it breaks my heart that you're a little girl walking to school. You should be thinking about math and lunch and stuff like that.
Not worrying about going to hell.
Not worrying about going to hell. This is an example of what are we doing? Sometimes when I'm feeling jaded, which is often, I'm amazed that anyone comes to church anymore because of stuff like this, where I'm like, why do we think that it's our job to oppress people and to make them afraid of a God who loves them? I mean, the answer is clear. It's control, but it's the wrong kind of control, and this, in my opinion, springs from, I suppose, the medieval church when it was discovered that if I make you afraid, I can extract money from you, which is kind of how the church split when Martin Luther rolled around.
Right.
But there's still a strain of that in the church today, in that if I can keep you afraid, I can control you. But the difference is today, if I keep you afraid, you're going to leave, is what happens today. It used to be if I hundreds of years ago, if I kept you afraid, you would come and you would just feel shame.
And you'd give more
give
money.
More money because you'd feel guilty. These were called indulgences. But now if I make you afraid or ashamed or whatever, people are like, fuck you. I'm not going to have anything to do with your church. And they leave. And so like the church can't be shocked that we have this massive global decline in people attending because people have no time for that. Why would you want to show up ritually to an institution that makes you feel bad about yourself and who you are in relation to creation and to myth about how the world came to be and how eternity looks? Like, why would I want to have anything to do with that? Mm-hmm. So it's not shocking.
Can you also, so I'm going to bring my legal self out for a second. And Sarah and I went to the Women's March together back in 2017. And she wore her collar. And it was really striking, like the conversations that happened. It was an amazing experience to be around so many women at that point in time and to share that experience with you, Sarah. We had a lot of fun, but also it was a heartbreaking time. And I felt at that time, even before that, but I felt this big moment of like this separation of church and state is disintegrating before our eyes. What our country was founded on and the whole reason we did not let religion control our politics. What is your perspective on that and how that is eroded to the point where it's not even a blurred line anymore. No. There's no line.
No.
Is there a way forward that will we return to that at some point? Is that lost now? Is religion going to always be, I mean, I know I'm asking to be a prophet here, but how do we return to the structures that kept us from allowing religion to control everything?
I think we're still in the downward spiral, not to be a Debbie Downer, but I feel, I watched when in Des Moines, the legislation, it was online, the legislation was being discussed on the floor about removing civil protection from the LGBTQ people in our state. Every single person invoked the Bible. And I was like, what? Why? Why are we even talking about the Bible? Every person, pro, con, invoked the Bible. I found that, they were correct. As a clergy person, I'm like, you're not misquoting the Bible. Some people I thought were full of shit. But I'm like, why is that why are we talking about that? We're talking about civil liberty here. Yeah. We're not talking about God or Jesus or anything like that. So I feel like we're continuing to see a hijacking of the church by the extreme right. And I don't think we're even close to where that's going to go. I think for me, the only hope lies in the fact that not all denominations will get in bed with the state. My denomination won't, and fights hard to protect the vulnerable, which is why it was ridiculous. When was that where Reynolds said that Lutheran Services of Iowa was a criminal syndicate? Like, what are we talking about? So, you have denominations and you have churches that are truly like working for the life of the marginalized and vulnerable people. And I think so long as they exist, I think there's hope. My fear is a real one that, like, I often wonder when I preach, how long will I get to preach the stuff that I say? So my grandpa was born in 1919, and he became a preacher in the 40s and remembers being a German pastor when World War II was happening, and like being afraid of like saying certain things. And I wonder too, like, will there come a time when I'm under scrutiny for the things that I say, or will I be arrested? I think about this a lot.
Yeah.
My husband does too. And I mean, that's a very real possibility, and one that I accept. Like, just so be it. I mean, there were all kinds of priests and pastors that had been arrested over the years for speaking truth to power, but like, it's sad to think that in our country. So my hope lies in structures that exist right now, like the ELCA, not only the ELCA, but still have the power and the strength and the integrity, I think, to speak about what's happening. I mean, I do in my sermons, I'm always newspaper and Bible, and they're very uncomfortable sermons to preach. Like, that's not fun, but it's absolutely necessary.
Hi, I'm Sam, founder of the Local Hub. When I moved to Iowa City, I felt like a tourist, and I'm sure you can relate if you've ever moved somewhere new or just haven't explored your city in years. Supporting local has never been more important, and the Local Hub makes it simple. It's a community-first way to uncover the local businesses, events, and hidden spots that make an area feel like home. If you're in the Iowa City area, you'll find us online, in print, and on social media, all designed to keep you in the loop about what's happening here. Visit thelocalhub-ic.com and start living like a local.
What's been your relationship to pushback as a female pastor over the years, and one who's not afraid to talk about hard stuff, preach about things that need to, like you said, need to be said, but are not fun sometimes to say? How have you worked through that, or lived with that, or navigated that?
It kind of runs the gamut. I've had people leave in the middle of sermons that I've preached that they found morally offensive. Most of that time was in Calamus towards the end of my time at the 2 Point Parish in Calamus, I did a same-gender wedding, and that exploded the town apart and the congregations apart. But it happened, and it was lovely. But as we were leading up to that, when I would preach a sermon about inclusivity and God's radical love for all people, like, people would get up and leave, most of whom I'm related to now through Doug. And I'm like, really? Like, this is so offensive that you're going to like leave and squill your tires in the parking lot? Bye. See ya.
Wow.
Now in Iowa City, people don't do that. But if people disagree or, take offense or whatever, they're open to conversation. This is Johnson County. Yeah. It's different, but I preached in Scott County 2 weeks ago, and I was afraid, like, how is this going to land? We're just not that far, but like, if I were in Iowa City, I would preach this, no problem. And I'm like, and there were some people there that were like, are you ever coming back? I'm like, I don't know. Am I? You tell me. But I think that's where we're supposed to be, is we're supposed to be on the edge of addressing things that are terrifying as religious people. And if we're not doing it, honestly, who is, truthfully?
Right.
So
where does that courage? I mean, I feel fire, like the fire and courage. Yeah. Where does that come from?
It's a good question. I think I'm very empathetic. Like, I ooze empathy. Sometimes I wish I were different, but
so do I.
Do you?
Oh my gosh, I'm so empathic.
It's an exhausting way.
Oh my gosh, try to go to a mall, right? Like, or a big event. I'm like, I cannot handle this. I feel everyone right now.
Yeah,
just absorb it. Yeah, and I think as I grew up, I was in high school in the 80s, and gay kids just got the shit kicked out of them all the time.
Yeah.
And I never understood why. I befriended them. I danced on the margins of all groups. I had no like tight-knit group of friends, but I kind of existed on the edges. I still do. And I'm comfortable doing that. But I never understood, like, they're not hurting you. Why are these people singled out for no reason? And so I think that stirred kind of a deep anger and passion for always looking for who's being kicked aside and why. And then I would befriend them. My kids do the same thing, I think. And that makes me proud. Yeah. So I think it started then, honestly.
Well, and we talked in your bio about how you, in working with young women, started to notice, women apologizing for everything. And you have modeled a very different way and you don't apologize for the work you're doing and how you do it. I'm sure it's still uncomfortable at times, but
Yeah.
when you were working with young women, and let's talk about the apology, because
Yeah.
my God, that is, I mean, as a recovering Catholic, it's
in you.
deep.
Yeah.
How is that? I mean, to me, it's one of the reasons women have been held back, because we apologize for our
Everything.
greatness, our gifts, our everything. We're
Our
apologizing.
bodies are.
Yeah. So tell us more about like that discovery, and then how you took that and kind of started to do research around it, and I guess kind of did programming to maybe help dissuade, or not correct that, but
It is a corrective.
address it.
It is. It's very interesting because while I kind of have a life's task of kind of monitoring it and offering corrective language and behavior, I battle it every single day. Ask my husband. There'll be times I apologize and he's like, "Stop apologizing." I'm like, I'm sorry for apologizing. And then, but I started noticing it shortly after I came to campus ministry. We were at an event. I remember I bumped into a student, female student. I bumped into her and she's like, "I'm sorry." And I'm like, "Why? Like, why? Why would you say that?" And so then I started paying attention, and it's not just female students, but it's so disproportionately female behavior that if you're sitting on a bus and you're on a bus seat and I'm a guy,
Yeah.
and I come and I sit next to you and I bump you, 100% of the time you will apologize. And you'll
Get
scoot
those
over.
small little airplane seats that like
You'll scoot over.
Yeah.
Instead of like sitting there and holding your space. Like we don't do that. We're taught to be small.
Yes.
And we're taught to be apologetic. And it's crazy how it comes up. A lady at the gym today, I bumped into her and she apologized. She's an old lady and I wanted to
Don't apologize.
like, why? Why do we do this? And it's not just like sitting on a bus or bumping into someone at a gym. It informs like a certain narrative of inferiority and diminished sense of being that I apologize for the space that my body is taking up, or the thing that I'm about to say that maybe I didn't think through before I said it, but I'm going to say it anyway. Like, I don't know about you, but oftentimes, most of the time before I say a thing, I comb through it to see, is this going to offend anyone? Is this going to hurt someone? Guys don't typically do that.
No.
They speak, they throw it on the table. But we're trained to like mediate, smooth things over, and in doing that, we lose edge and we lose like a certain rawness, which is what your podcast is about.
Yeah.
That is fiery and is passionate, but we just comb it out.
Water it down.
I feel it every time I preach. It's very interesting. So I love preaching. It's my favorite thing about being a pastor.
Why?
I love the written word. I love language. I'm a good writer. I'm a good speaker. And I feel like I do a really great job of interweaving biblical truth and current events. I don't think I do that very well. Yeah.
No apology.
I
say you catch yourself. I love that.
While I'm preaching, I'm great. And I feel powerful. I feel informed. But the steps walking up to the pulpit, I'm shaking every single time, because you have this voice saying, "Who do you think you are? You haven't done your research. You don't know what you're talking about. Sit down and shut up.
Yeah.
Do you really think you should be doing this?" And like literally trembling until I start, and then I'm fine.
Oh, that's so interesting.
Isn't that interesting?
Well, we just had this podcast before you that we recorded with Renee Zukin, and we were talking about, the fear is always there. It's that we need to do it anyway.
Yeah. And it's always there the worst before. And then when you actually do it, you're fine.
You're fine.
Do you ever have a vulnerability hangover afterwards as well? Where you're like, why did I say that?
Always.
Okay. Yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
Even if So I'm a manuscript preacher. I do that for a few reasons. If I preach just off the cuff, I will wander and lose track of where I'm going. And then 30 minutes later, people are like, we hate you. So I'm a manuscript preacher. Also, it's for safety.
Yeah.
Like if people accuse me of saying a thing,
You've got it all written out word
I
for
can
word.
say, here's my script of what I've said.
Think about that though. Like that's as a woman.
Yep.
That's one of the ways you try to stay safe. And
It's protected me. And I've used it many, many times in the past because I know what I say. I can't control what people hear. And so if people come at me and they're like, why did you say this? I'm like, I didn't. And then if I share, it's very interesting actually. If they're open to it, if I share a manuscript with them, they'll say, but I heard that. I'm like, well, why did you hear that? Like, what's going on with you? And let's talk about that. But the fear of it is very real. And I think it's very important to push through that. Like I know now as a person who's been preaching for 25 years, like as I'm sitting there and the hymns are being sung and the prayers and I'm sitting there and I'm just like, don't throw up. Appear very poised. Don't fidget. And I can do that well. Great game face, but inside I'm like, ah.
But so interesting.
But like my son is a runner and he's like, before every race, he's like,
throws up.
Right.
Or it's a lot of runners.
It's human. It's so human.
And once he's running, he's fine. And so, I mean, that kind of spans all kinds of performances and stuff like that. So the alternative is not to do it. The alternative is not to run the race, not to say the words. And that's not okay.
And not to use your gifts.
Yeah.
Which
And
you have these gifts. I've witnessed it. They are true gifts.
Well, thank you.
And even when we're using our gifts there, I think it's a good reminder that it can be scary.
Yeah.
And you do have those feelings of fear still arises.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even 25 years into it.
25. But I was taught and trained by wonderful preaching professors. And every time I'm feeling that way, I remember one of them said, if you're not uncomfortable, then you're not doing it right.
Oh, what a gift that was.
What an absolute gift. And so I was pushed and trained to do that. Like you should be afraid. You should be trembling because the truth is a scary thing to say to people. It's an easy thing. I could preach a sermon right now for 20 minutes that is milk toast and vegetable lasagna and bland. And everyone's like, oh, everything is great.
But you don't do that, do you?
No.
I can tell that just sitting next to you. I'm like, that's not how you roll.
No. And what that means is I've never reused a sermon. I have them all, like I've saved them all, but like I've never in a pinch pulled one and said, I'll just preach this because it's ineffectual. The world is different today than it was yesterday. Certainly last year, certainly 10 years ago. So like, the context changes so fast. I'm preaching on Sunday and I won't finish that sermon till Saturday. Because let's say I finish it and then there's this terrible catastrophe Saturday night.
You have to change it.
You have to change it and address it.
The world's moving so quickly. I could see how it's a last minute decision.
Yeah. And I think that's important because you should always be current. And I mean, if your people are there's 200 people sitting there and they're like, plane just crashed last night and 300 people died and you're not going to mention that. Like they're probably even on their phones in the pews, so you have to meet them where they're at. So I was trained by really, really powerful preachers to step into that space and to be afraid. But to your question, like afterwards, there's that fear building up, leading up to the preaching. And then afterwards, there's this like, Sunday afternoons, I feel very vulnerable. I feel very raw. I feel like exhausted and I don't look at social media. I don't look at if someone texts me or messages me, I'm like, I don't even know if I have the strength to engage what you have to say to me. So I do kind of this punch and withdraw sort of thing.
Which shows me that you're totally on your game. Do you know what I mean? That you're actually really doing the hard work that you need to be doing. Like you're showing up 100%. There's no phoning in. That there's a whole preparation period. There's the anxiety.
Yeah.
Then you go into the game. You actually, everything comes together. You do it. You feel confident. And then there's that like hangover afterwards.
Yeah.
And then there's like this nurturing that has to happen to
Yes.
kind of nurture yourself back. Again, that says to me, like, you are, in the words of Brene Brown, actually in the ring,
Yeah.
doing the
arena.
work.
Yeah.
You're in the arena, right? You're not on the sidelines. And to me, that's super inspiring of someone who's showing up in the world. Like, these are my gifts. This is what I'm here to do. This is my purpose. And I'm showing up fully. And I can also feel from you that it's not, it's challenging.
Yeah. Yeah. So for example, like Sunday, this is funny, and this is how I roll. This is typical of me. So on Sunday, so there's a rotation of Bible readings in the Christian church. Like, you don't just randomly pick them; they're kind of assigned to a Sunday. It's on a 3-year rotation. Anyway, I'm guest preaching on Sunday, and so the pastor said, "These are the readings. You can choose one. You can choose all 4, whatever." And I looked at them. And I was like, of course, like, there's the story of Sodom and Gomorrah. And I'm like, I'm going to choose that. Because it's the worst one to choose, or you could say the best one to choose. Because I was taught whatever is most uncomfortable to you in these readings, lean into that. Don't ignore it. So like, that's what I always do. And so I'm like, why are we uncomfortable with this? Like, let's talk about it. Let's just pull it apart on a Sunday in July when we're all going to go home and grill. And
but this is what you do.
Yeah.
I can tell this is what you do.
But it would be much easier,
Right.
to look at
Choose
the
an
other one.
easier
Just ignore it.
passage, and
Yeah.
especially as a guest pastor, where you're like, I'm just going to go in there, and
that's why you're a wild woman.
that is why you are the wild woman.
You really tap into that archetype, and you don't take the easy path.
No.
You're taking the necessary path.
The necessary path.
But yeah, I can tell you're already like, okay,
It's
this
just
is going to be
funny.
a big one.
Yeah, I'm just like, oh, Sarah, of course.
I love that. I actually I feel really inspired sitting next to you, hearing about this, right? And hearing your process and all of this. I have a bigger question around, I feel like I could just I know this person all day. I'm like, where we are in our time? But, organized religion has taken some hits in the last, I don't know, how long could we say? 10, 20 years?
Yeah.
For many reasons that we don't necessarily have to get into. But what I'm curious about is, what's your take on that? And what I'd like to hear from someone in your shoes is, why does the world still need religion? Because so many people are saying, I don't need religion. I just listened to this amazing podcast with the scientist who's like, we all have a spiritual brain. Spiritual experiences show up the same in everyone's brain, no matter what religion they are in, or no matter whether they're religious. Like, so spirituality is very, like, it shows up in the brain the same way. Whereas religion is sort of more the container for certain spiritual experiences, but you don't have to be religious to have spiritual experiences. So I guess what I'm curious from you is, from your shoes, why does the world need religion still?
Well, I don't think the world needs religion. I think for some people it's helpful. My husband is atheist, and so we have a very different worldview. I think for some people, religion is a helpful tool or expression of how we understand our existence, how we understand ourselves in relationship to something bigger than who we are, how we understand brokenness in the world, how we understand love, eternity, all that stuff. But I don't think everybody needs religion. No, absolutely not. I mean, I know plenty of people that are deeply spiritual, but are not affiliated with any sort of organized religion. And like, I would never think any less of them, or somehow that they're going to hell or less loved by God. Or I tend to lean far more towards the universalist, that like God hates nothing that God has created.
Yeah.
And religion's helpful for some, but like, if you say that everyone needs religion, well, we need to think about, going back to our earlier conversation, what about the people who've been horribly harmed in the name of religion, gay people and women, and et cetera, et cetera. Or let's just talk about, in the last 20 years, the harm that largely, not only the Catholic Church has
Yeah.
done in clergy misconduct. We've all paid for that.
Yeah.
I pay for that.
Yeah.
As a female,
As a female
Lutheran,
pastor. Yeah.
Yes.
you see this and you think that somehow I love pedophiles
Yep.
or am affiliated with them or somehow like justify it or, and that's a totally different denomination. And I loved Pope Francis. I think he was making significant moves in addressing that. And hopefully Pope Leo will do the same. But like that was devastating for all organized religion.
Yeah.
Everyone lost trust in us. And I think it's important to name that,
Mhm.
It's upsetting for people to hear, but like, when I was in Calamus, Father Jansen was the Catholic priest in Grand Mound. He is in prison for the rest of his life. I knew the men that he abused. I saw what he did to their life. And it's amazing that they live, truthfully.
Mhm.
And so my husband stopped attending because one of his relatives was a victim of this priest. And if you watch the movie Spotlight,
Yeah.
at the end, they scroll through all of the countries and states in the world where clergy have been found guilty of sexual abuse. Grand Mound, Iowa is on there because Doug's relative was the first person to sue the Roman Catholic Church using his name.
Wow.
Not John Doe, but like, I'm going to use my name and go against you. And how can we then blame people like my husband for stepping away?
Right.
From organized church to say, you know what, if you're going to treat people, if you're going to say God loves people, but we're going to do this to people, I want nothing to do with you.
Mm.
And I don't blame people, but that's just one reason why people might choose to like have nothing to do with religion. But back to your question, I don't think
the world needs it, but some people do.
I think it's very, very meaningful for some people, but not for others.
Yeah. Well, and we need people like you as part of it. It's almost, you're a leader in an organization. Like you're a leader.
Mm-hmm.
And when I think about even in corporate America, right, we need more women leaders.
Yeah.
We need a more feminine approach to our world.
Yeah.
We need more creativity and collaboration and empathy and compassion. The church is not unlike that.
Yeah.
And we have kept women in so many denominations away from that it feels like, I don't want to put more responsibility on you, but it feels like the women in these organizations are actually the ones that can reframe and I don't know if it's rebirth or reorganize around the ideals that you preach about.
Yeah.
To bring us back to the purpose is not to shame. And the purpose is to love and show compassion to your neighbor, regardless of their circumstances.
Yeah.
And that's what our world needs. And so whether the world needs religion, we just need more of that in every facet of our culture.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that it's going to be the women that are rebuilding these structures, right? To bring more of that to our culture. So, and you're doing that. You're one of the women doing that. I'm really interested in who some of your, I guess, who you lean on as your spiritual, like women in the church that have gone before you, like,
who supports you.
Yeah.
That's a new thing.
Because you're out on the edges.
Yeah. So funnily enough, that's very new. I've existed kind of as a lone outlier for a couple of reasons. I've had a foot in both congregational ministry and campus ministry. Primarily campus ministry was my call. So I had a great cohort of colleagues in that, like interfaith colleagues that I still keep in touch with. And they're very special to me, but not many female. In fact, just one that I can think of. She's the director of the Hillel Jewish Student Center across the street from where I work. She's Ashley Holt, powerful, passionate, amazing woman. But the rest were men and wonderful. But I've been on sabbatical for the past year, and I decided I'm gonna look around and like who are the female preachers in the corridor, and I showed up randomly to this female colleague group one day. I'd been getting these emails for like 10 years and just ignored them because I had my cohort with campus ministry people. Well, I don't have that anymore. So I just walked in one day and they were like, and I'm like, hi, 10 years later, here I am. And we've been meeting for months and they're not Lutheran and they have amazing stories and encouraging, and they listen to me. And so that's been kind of a new and beautiful discovery.
Yeah.
And I have deep admiration for what they've gone through and hardships that they've endured in their own denominations and challenges that they have that I think are uniquely female. Like a lot of them, like myself, had babies while being a pastor. That's hard. It's hard to be a pregnant pastor. Yeah. It's hard to be
your mom pastor,
a postpartum pastor when you're preaching and your baby cries and you start to lactate. Yeah. And you're like, amen.
Yeah.
or being emotional and trying to preach and lead worship when like your baby is kicking but they understand that. And like that's been fun to talk to them and to understand like these are mother pastors.
I'm having a little aha here of, are you too?
Yeah. You say it.
You grew up with men. You were like the only woman. Then you chose a male-dominated profession. You're basically the only woman. And now, just recently, you are tapping into this group of women.
Amazing.
That are pastors doing the thing that you're doing and feeling like, oh, it took me a long time to get here, but now I'm really being, served and nourished and seen.
Yeah.
And the power, that's kind of what we found in this podcast too, of like women connecting with women, hearing women's stories, not feeling alone. And we've all been out there trying to do our thing in a man's world and to feel the feminine support as the feminine is sort of attempting to rise right now.
It makes me want to cry.
I know.
I'm not even going to lie. And here's why. I think this is not random. And I think I come across as a man hater. I'm not a man hater, but I think that that men are raised with certain narratives about women as well. And one of them is that we don't get along with each other. And so I was told from a young age, women are catty.
Women can't be trusted.
And we just don't collaborate well together. And in my experience, that's utter bullshit. Like, my reality is, I think I sound conspiracy theory. There's an orchestrated thought of like, we need to keep women apart from each other.
That's how they
make them hate each other.
And suspicious of each other.
Yep.
So that I don't reach out to you.
Exactly.
And
then we're really going to be powerful when we're on the same team.
I know. Women unite. And so
now look at our producer over there is like shaking her head.
Rocket, and I learned this, or I experienced this a couple of days ago. I had an interview and it was very good. And the night before I was very nervous and I was like feeling attacked by all my demons and just all the things. And I have this group text to them and I'm like, I want to text them and say, I have this interview tomorrow. I'm nervous. Pray for me. And I'm like, stupid as fuck. Don't do it. And I had the text and I didn't send it. And then I sent it. And my first feeling when I sent it was I was embarrassed because I'm asking for help. I'm like, I need some people. Sarah. I need some people in my corner. Where are my people? Yeah. And they showed up. Like they texted and they're like, I'm praying for you. What words would be helpful for you right now? Remember how we talked about this? Remember that. Like, remember this. And they just showed up and later asked me, like, how did it go? And I'm like, they're asking me about me. They're asking me about how things went for me. And nobody does that in most women's life. Like, I ask people how they are, but like, they were tending to me.
Yeah.
I love
you, but you allowed them to.
Receive.
You allowed them to.
You did.
I sat there and looked at that text for like an hour and I'm like, oh my God.
Well, and I see such a through line with you as you were a mother at a very young age. You served as a mother.
10 years old.
Yes.
And then with 3 boys, right? You've been in this mothering role of taking care of everyone else.
Yeah.
It's your profession.
And it's your profession. Yeah. So at this age, to be able to say, maybe I will reach out.
Yes.
Maybe I don't have to do this alone.
And I love it took her an hour to send it. I love that part of this story.
I sat there and I watched Schitt's Creek for an hour. I kept looking at my phone. I'm like, send it, don't send it, send it, don't send it. I sent
And
it.
that's the you allowed yourself to be vulnerable.
Yes.
Which is part of being in the arena right now. It's just like,
and to say, you know what, I'm feeling nervous. I'm feeling, I'm feeling inadequate. I'm feeling ill-equipped. I'm feeling unworthy. I'm feeling not enough. And to have people show up and literally like surround you with grace and say you're fully enough.
Yeah.
well, and you found a community that understands exactly the position that you're in.
Yes, absolutely.
Which is a beautiful thing, right?
And I am feeling extremely inspired that I feel like your story is a story for all of us to hear and all of our listeners to hear of the power of when we bust through the boxes of don't trust them. They're going to bite you in the back. They're going to talk about you behind your back. Like all these messages we've been given about women.
Yeah. Sister wounds.
Right. And instead it's like, no, when we actually come together, we collaborate, we support, we see, we encourage, like we are going to do great things. And you're right. We've all been conditioned to mistrust that. And I do think it's not just a conspiracy. I think it's really real. Yeah. That if we learned how to come together and trust each other, oh man, we're going to heal this world. Yeah. And that's what's necessary. Yeah. I think we're being called to do that. Agreed. But we do have to work through you're talking about it. Both of us have talked about the fears of like letting the women in and being supported and then stepping into our power and light. Yeah.
In our own way.
In our own way.
Not unique to us. Way. No. Yes. And I think that's very important. And the things that you coax out of people in your podcasts in their own walks of life, that there are certain roles, whatever that is, president or CEO or pastor or whatever, principal, teacher, whatever, that there's a certain expectation of this is what that job looks like, doctor. Yeah. That it's
one
largely
way to do it.
A male informed way of these are the skills you need. This is how you attend to this position. But there's a distinctly different female way of administering and leading that has been discredited for so long. And it's hard to push back against that. It's exhausting.
Especially in a male dominated field you're in.
Yeah. 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 Where there's one way that you're supposed to look, one way that you're supposed to be and preach and speak, all of it.
I'm reading A Different Kind of Power by Jacinda Ardern right now, who was the New Zealand Prime Minister. Oh my God, you need to read it.
Was she the Prime Minister during COVID?
Yes.
It was just amazing. Uh-huh.
And she had a baby during,
young person. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But it's about feminine leadership, the strengths that come with that and how powerful they are.
Yeah.
And how we need more of that right now.
She was a strong leader during that time. Yeah. He's like, you know what? No one's leaving our country. No one's coming in.
Yeah.
She just took over.
She took care of her people.
Yep. I remember reading about her.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then stepped away, right? Which was, I think her words were, I don't have the gas in the tank for this next chapter.
Yeah.
Which resonated with me. It was about the same time that I left. And the bravery to also step away when she needed to for her own well-being. But now to be sharing kind of this different kind of power, right? It is power. Yeah. We have power.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Feminine energy actually is power.
It
is interesting. Masculine energy is consciousness.
Oh, that's interesting.
But the feminine energy is power. Mm-hmm. So we are all infused with power, which is why I think we've been pushed down for so long, because that's baked into the feminine energy. And of course, men hold feminine energy too, but
of course,
it's power.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that beautiful?
I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, Sarah.
So good. Okay. Before we get to our last question.
Are you going to ask her about her tattoos?
I know.
Oh, you looking. I know.
I want to know what your tattoos say out loud.
Okay. I have 1, 2, 3. I have 5 tattoos. One is on my ankle, which I won't show you because I have boots on. It's a Jesus fish. And I got that when I was ordained with my classmates. Beautiful. By a man named Spanky in Platteville,
Wisconsin.
And
shout out to Spanky.
Wherever you are, Spanky.
Bare-chested, very big man with a tattoo on his chest that said, I am the NRA. And
I am the NR.
Yes.
And you asked for the Jesus fish?
When I asked for the Jesus fish, and he started, and it hurt really bad. And I started nervously chatting, and I asked him if it was going to hurt like that the whole time. And he stopped and he goes, "Are you going to talk the whole time?" And I'm like, "No, sir. Sorry. He sat there and I was terrified of him. So Spanky was my first tattoo. This one, the word is, was that my second? Yes. Was, it's a Hebrew word. It's Timshel. And when my kids asked me about it, I got this on my 40th birthday. I said, the word is Timshel. And they go, "We don't know anyone named Tim Shell." I go, "No, it's not a name. It's a word." And they're like, Tim who? I'm like, "Oh my God, focus. It's not a person." And they walked away. They're like, "I don't know Tim. Do you know Tim?" And I'm like, "Idiot." The Tim Shell is in Genesis 4, where Cain kills Abel. And God comes to Cain and says, "What have you done?" And God says, "Evil is lurking at your door. You must master it." But it's not must. The Hebrew word is Timshel, which means may. You may. Which means maybe you will and maybe you won't. Like, it's in your hands to do good or evil. You can choose to do good and you can choose to do evil. And I had a very bad early childhood. And I remember when my kids were little, like screaming. They're 1 year apart. Like holding them, they were all screaming. And I'm thinking, this is the point people get to where they hurt their children. This is it. And I never did. But I remember thinking, this is the breaking point where people snap. And my savior was in the form of my neighbor named Hazel, who lived across the street from me. She had 5 sons. She was old by then, like 75. And she came over one day and she goes, "If you find yourself in trouble," she goes, "put your boys in their cribs and then sit on your front step and I will come to you." And she did, with a bottle of vodka and her hair curlers. She would come over and we'd do a shot on my front step. And she's like, "You're going to be fine." And then she would run across the street.
Hazel. Shout out to Hazel. I assume she's on the other side.
Yes. Hazel. She was amazing. So like, anyway, so I got this. That was my second
40th.
tattoo, 40th. And then I got, this word is a Greek word, and it's charis, and it means grace in Greek. And then I got, this is a phrase in German. The phrase is "Wer bin ich?" And it's the title of a poem by a pastor whose name is Dietrich Bonhoeffer, who preached against the Nazi government in Germany and was eventually hanged for it. Formed a resisting church to what was happening in Nazi Germany, which is very resonant with what's happening today.
Yep.
And so he was hung as a Lutheran pastor, and he wrote a poem called "Wer bin ich?" and it's "Who am I?" And the final phrase of his poem is, "Finally, God, I am thine." So he goes through, am I this? Am I this? Am I this? Well, whatever I am, I'm yours. And I think that's beautiful. And then this is "Apology rejected" on this arm.
I feel like this is a new one, but it's not. I thought
It's
it
a
was just
couple years
scabbed
old.
over.
It's a couple years old.
Apology
Rejected. Yeah.
which is what your work has been.
Yeah.
It's kind of, yes.
Mm.
So those are my tattoos.
I love that. This is kind of the story of your life in tattoos.
Pop star. I love asking people about theirs.
Yeah. Well, this has been
Tattooed rebel, like platform boot wearing.
Yes.
It's amazing.
This has been amazing to talk to you.
Beautiful
Thank you
conversation.
for that.
Well, we have one final question.
do.
This is a really good one too. I'm so curious to know your answer.
All right. So Clarissa Pinkola Estes in Women Who Run with the Wolves says that there are 4 precious doors into the life of the wild woman.
And you are so clearly a wild woman, Sarah.
Yeah, you are.
You are.
You exemplify
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Totally. So is there a door of these 4 doors that resonates with you into your life as a wild woman? So if you have an old story, that is a door. If you have a deep scar, that is a door. If you love the sky and the water so much you can almost not bear it, that is a door. Or if you yearn for a full life, a deep life, a sane life, that is a door. So do one of those doors resonate with you?
I think I saw that in your email and I thought about it. I think the first one is true for me. I think I have an old story. I think it's a story that It's not unique to me at all, of a person who feels called to do a thing, is good at that thing, but has surrounding narratives which are largely false. You could say all false, trying to convince you that you shouldn't do that thing. Yeah. And so I think, but that also leads to scars. That is the second piece that then leads to the yearning for a full and abundant life, but I think it's that old story. And that's probably why I resonate with people who are on the edges of the church. Because I identify myself as one of those people, so that's why I don't judge. But I think it's an old story.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing your brilliance.
Oh, thank you.
Just your vulnerability today and just making us think. I think that's what I'm walking away with. Like, you gave us a lot to think about. And that's what good leaders and pastors do.
And you gave me a new vision of being a religious person in the world, but one that is actually loving, is really living from a place of love and acceptance and not judgment. And to me, I feel like this is going to resonate for months and years to come, to have a new vision of a different way. It feels like actually what's coming to me is a more modern way to live from that religious space. So thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for this opportunity. It's been amazing.
It's beautiful. Thank you, Sarah.
Thanks for joining us today. If you like this podcast, please subscribe, rate, and review. Come back and rewild with us again next week.